You didn't know?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the D-Generation Y podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex.
And I'm your other host, Mike.
I'm so glad you did that. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of our podcast. It is currently, I believe, September 28th. It's been a little while since we've had an episode. We promise we're going to try and get into a more consistent schedule. Life is what it is and doesn't always work out the way you want. But we have a pretty fun episode for you guys tonight. Couple things we're going to go into. We're going to do our favorite guess the wrestler game. We'll each take a turn at guessing some wrestlers. Then we have a few different segments we want to run into. Going to discuss on some people we think maybe should or shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. A new segment we plan on starting. We're going to talk about getting refs and commentators more involved in storylines. And then we're going to talk about some drama with executive vice presidents being full-time wrestlers. Before we kick it all off, I also want to mention, in a way, Mike and I have some merch that could potentially be available. If anyone out there would be interested in buying it, let us know. It's going to be it would be custom ordered, but it's literally just our logo on the back of a shirt with a nice little QR code on the front. Like I said, let us know if you're interested. We enjoy wearing them because it's nice advertising for us. But anyways,
just talking about it.
Yeah. But with that, let's jump into our first segment. Again, this is going to be a new one that I think we'll, do recurring a little bit depending on some feedback, but it's going to be basically, should X individual be in the Hall of Fame or should they not be? We're going to do a mix of mix of people that already are in the Hall of Fame and debate whether they should be there, and also do people that aren't currently in the Hall of Fame and debate if they should be there. So for this week's segment, we're going to kick it off with Ken Shamrock. So as I was kind of preparing for this segment, I've actually gone back and forth a little bit on whether or not I feel like he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's already in TNA/Impacts, I believe. And the reason I debated being in whether or not he should be in WWE is because,
I'm surprised you're debating it, though. I feel like that's kind of I don't know. For me, I feel like it's a definite no.
So that was my first thought, and I had my reasons for thinking it was a definite. But what kind of turned me off the idea a little bit was, as I was going back, I realized he wasn't realistically in WWE for that extended period of time. It was really only like 3, maybe 4 years, which, you can very easily say like, oh, there's other people who were never in WWE that like end up in the Hall of Fame. And that's typically just a scenario of like, it was an old NWA like territory person that just didn't come to WWE, but had done all of these other things.
So even right there, though, he's done other things in other promotions. So
exactly. That's kind of where I was going too, is like, very easily you could say like he did all these other things with Impact and stuff, but at the same time, WWE doesn't own Impact, so they don't like to acknowledge all that stuff. So like, it's a little bit of the devil's advocate. But, taking a step back, one of the things that first made me think, he should maybe be in WWE's Hall of Fame is because he was, him, and also at roughly at the same time, there was Dan Severn, but he was really the first, MMA.
That's where I was like, no, it's a definite. He's like a trailblazer, so to speak. I mean,
exactly.
People like Brock Lesnar and
exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
Even you could even say Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler, and any of the
exactly. He was the first. Right. He was like the first MMA guy that made the transition to professional wrestling, and he also, because of his background there, you make a good point, like being a trailblazer for all those other people. Like he also brought a different style of professional wrestling to professional wrestling. Like he made it.
I felt like it was a. I mean, granted, I was a kid when he was, I was amazed by everything basically. I feel like he did a pretty seamless job at, I don't know. I feel like you see other people that transition from other sports, and they struggle with, doing. And I mean, granted, maybe because now I'm watching NXT, so I see a lot of the people that are transitioning or whatever, and different sports players or whatever, it's basketball, anything. So I obviously wasn't watching that as a kid, so I couldn't see any of what that training was like. And for all we know, he could have had like 3 years, 4 years training in wrestling before he even showed up on WWE. So,
True.
anyways, not to derail the
No, but that's all fair points. We really don't know, because especially since we were so young, and I personally wasn't watching at the time, we don't know what sort of training he had behind the scenes leading up to his actual debut. But this is the one time I'm going to use real versus fake sport. Like going from MMA to like professional wrestling. MMA, you're obviously your goal is to do as much damage to your opponent as possible. Whereas, transitioning to professional wrestling, specific WWE, it's the opposite. You need to do the least amount of damage, but make it look like it's the most amount of damage. So, to me, for him, and along with like Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, Shayna Baszler, like all of them, I think it's very impressive that they're able to go from these. What? And Riddle, yeah, that's actually a good point. I almost forgot that Riddle did MMA. I think Bellator, right? And Bobby Lashley too, if you want to throw him in there. Like they're going from these. What'd you say?
Said CM Punk.
I'm not counting him. He didn't win a single. He didn't win a single MMA match. It doesn't count. No, I know. But like you have to give them a lot of credit, because they're going from these like full combat sports where they're not, they're not holding punches. They're doing as much damage as they can, to now having to just barely glaze the face so the person knows when to react. And like
it's really going from something that's in kind of your control as opposed to something that's not. I mean, WWE, the outcome is not necessarily in your control. I mean, your popularity may impact it, but at the end of the day, it's the people making the decision that's making the decision who's going to win the match, not you.
Exactly.
And when you're in a combat or competitive combat sport, is what I'll say.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
You're in control of it, because in a sense, obviously you can't really control what your opponent's ever doing, but you're controlling it in a sense that you're just putting your all in to win, and that's your kind of control, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. So yeah, I mean, just kind of like rolling the facts. Yeah. So like that, like all these thoughts that like some of the points that you brought up and like everything that I was saying, just like was the internal struggle of like, I think to an extent, yes, he does belong in the Hall of Fame, because he was that like trailblazer in terms of like people from MMA coming over. And even, well, there were other like, actually no, I think he even came over before Tyson. Like the only person that like, I feel like the only person that was like quote unquote mainstream that did any sort of like wrestling in WWE maybe would have been Mr. T. So like he was really one of the first like somewhat mainstream people to come over and like actually have
why are you
competitive matches.
What is your thinking that's weighing you to the no side? He doesn't.
Solely the time, the fact that he didn't have an extended run in WWE. Like that's my one drawback. But then I also like, I was just trying to think, like, I've been trying to think if there's been anybody else, or if there's anybody else already in WWE's Hall of Fame as a wrestler, not celebrity wing, as a wrestler that had a similar short run. And I couldn't think of anybody. So like, that's been my one drawback to say, no, he shouldn't be in WWE's Hall of Fame, because he only had that 3-year run.
I mean, quality over quantity, right?
That's also very fair. That's also very fair.
So, I mean, if I had a fucking say in it, and I don't, obviously, I would say yes, he deserves it. Just solely on the fact that whole, I mean, I feel like that does it alone. It's just him setting that trailblazer and whatever. That's
yeah.
Word.
No, and that's completely fair. And like I said, I mean, similar to what I said when we basically kind of started this segment with Brock Lesnar, like, I'm not going to be rioting in the streets if he doesn't get in. I'm not going to be rioting in the streets if he does. I think he's one of those toss-up people who I think if he gets in, I definitely think it's deserved. And if he doesn't, I can also understand why.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your reasoning, like if your reasoning or whoever's reasoning of not putting him in would be, oh, well, he wasn't here that long, so why would we do it? I feel like there needs to be more reasoning, but
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Granted, that's my opinion.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just like trying, and again, it's professional wrestling, so it's very different than other sports. But like, I'm trying to think of it in like terms of like thinking of like, baseball or football. Players don't have 2 or 3 great seasons and then retire and they get to the Hall of Fame. Like they need to have had 10 to 15 great seasons to be
I'm
like.
trying to think of like there are definitely some people in the Hall of Fame that don't have that. I mean, maybe not. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Are there really? Is every single person in the WWE Hall of Fame super noteworthy?
Well, and that was my other point. Like that, the only people he would kind of like fit in with in that sense are like the quote unquote old timers from like the territory days where it like wrestling in general just wasn't mainstream.
I don't know if I necessarily agree because aren't there some people? I mean, I haven't watched all of the Hall of Fame ceremonies yet. That's on my list, but I would assume, and maybe this is just me assuming, but like there are some like I don't know why the name is coming to me, and I don't think that she's not a great superstar, but like people from the Attitude Era, like Jacqueline, or granted, they just put that. Granted, I do think there was a lot of behind the scenes works with like training of the Jacqueline and Ivory both had. I think they were both on Tough Enough too, so like they were front and center training, but I also think there was a lot of back end stuff, so maybe that helped a lot too. But from what we could see, it's like it's almost like they were just put in there because I feel like all of the women in the Attitude Era are considered trailblazers because of what the women's division is now. And I don't want to discredit for them because, granted,
no,
is amazing, and Ivory, they're both talented, but are they really like?
No, yeah, that's a very fair point. They,
and I'm trying to think of
that, no, but actually, that kind of sways me because you make a good point. Them being women 100% aside, they had similar short-term runs as Ken Shamrock. So the fact that they're in, I think makes it fair to say that he deserves to be in. Again, male, female aside, just the fact that they are trailblazers in a specific subsection of the wrestling industry.
Yeah.
So that's fair. So there you go.
There we go. We solved it.
Exactly. We solved it. D-Generation Y proclaimed Ken Shamrock should be in the WWE Hall of Fame someday.
Spoiler alert, it's happening in 2023.
Imagine we predict it. Well, it's funny. You know what?
Honestly, there's something wrong with the simulation if that actually happens. I'm calling bullshit on the design.
I would say
I'm leaving the Matrix. I don't know what's happening.
This will be the last comment I make on it. It would be actually pretty funny and a little bit ironic that they do that because I don't know. I know you're in 2022 now, but not fully caught up. But Extreme Rules is coming up in like a week or two, and actually, that's what sparked this conversation. Actually, at Extreme Rules, there's going to be a pit fight match, which is one of the matches that Ken Shamrock used to have against Steve Blackman. Remember, they had like that weird little like caged pit. Yeah,
it's actually funny because we've been talking about Ken Shamrock this whole time.
And you've been picturing Steve Blackman having you.
I've envisioned Steve Blackman with long black pants, no shirt. Even at one point, I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, he was very like out there with his moves. I remember him using kendo. No, that's fucking Steve Blackman.
That's hilarious.
But he was also very, what was he from? Was he just like karate or something?
Yeah, he just knew. I think he just knew karate, and he just knew like self-defense, a lot of self-defense stuff.
Oh, it was just self. I thought he was like a black belt or something.
He was. I just forget what discipline, but like it wasn't like but he didn't come from MMA. I think he just happened to know like a certain discipline. But yeah. So, anyways, the last comment is I wouldn't be surprised if that's like the prelude to them picking Ken Shamrock is because they're doing a pit match.
That would be funny if they both end up getting inducted this year.
So Steve Blackman, I can't picture.
Yeah, no, I was just saying it'd be funny.
Yeah, it would be funny, but anyways, I think it is time for you to guess that poorly described wrestler. And I have two people that I could potentially pick from.
Don't do hints on the fly.
No, I have them both written down. I have them both written down. And I think I know who I'm going to go with. All right. Are you ready for guessing the poorly described wrestler?
I should ask you who you. Who should I do? Do you want me to do?
Anyways,
go on.
Hint number one is third generation in professional wrestling.
Randy Orton.
It is not Randy Orton.
Okay, male or female?
They are male. All right. They have faced The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
No. The Rock? No, we did The Rock already. But
Have we done The Rock? It's not The Rock though.
So of the third generation, like, are they all WWE people? Like, would
Yes.
I would know these people?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. This person was part of multiple factions. And I'll even extend that. He was part of a faction in the 90s and the 2010s. And probably the end of the 2000s. So he was arguably in a faction in 3 decades.
3 different factions and 3. Oh, that's something. I'll have to guess. 3 different factions from the 90s.
4 different factions. Sorry. I just thought of a 4th one, but
it's a 3rd generation superstar in the 90s that's still wrestling in 2010. I don't know. I don't even think he's 3rd wrestler. Ted DiBiase. I can't think.
It's not Ted DiBiase. No, it's not Ted DiBiase.
Who the hell is in the? All right. Are they still active? Or when did they stop being fully active? Or no? Because no. I'll just go back. Are they still active? Go ahead.
They were active in 2022. But they're like, I don't really know what their current status is. Like, I wouldn't say that they're retired, but they're not fully active at the moment.
But before 2022, they were
sporadic. Yeah, they're like sporadic. Next one is for me.
Oh yeah.
This person temporarily retired, and they retired as a champion.
I feel like I should know this one, and I'm nowhere close to getting it. I can't think of any 3rd generation superstars right now, especially not in the freaking 90s. I need to focus on something different than the whole 3rd generation aspect. Who the hell fit Undertaker that was in multiple factions?
Hey, just run through his opponents and just guess somebody.
Shawn Michaels.
That's a fair guess. It's not Shawn Michaels though. All right, clarification.
Was the match with Undertaker in WrestleMania in the 2010s?
Yes.
Shit.
All right. Last hint.
Already 5? Jeez.
Yeah. This person no longer needs their poppy.
Jeez. Oh. Yeah, I guess he is the 3rd, but he's not. No, he's dead, so that's not it. But is he 3rd generation? Yeah, no, he might be. But factions? Oh, I have another clarification, right?
You have 2 more hints because you get the clarification. Yeah.
Rey Mysterio.
It's not Rey Mysterio. As soon as I said Poppy, I knew you were going to guess Rey.
Is that like a hint that actually means something, or just like because his father is probably dead now or something?
No, it means something.
Okay. All right. So then my final guess.
Oh, is that your clarification? That hint means something?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I mean, I don't know who the hell else has something to do with your poppy.
Think music.
I don't. But all I can think about now is Booker T. Not him. Right, who is it?
It is Shane McMahon.
Oh, son of a.
So third generation, because obviously Vince and then Vince's father.
But they
I never
were
said
superstar. You said soup. Didn't you say?
no. I said he was third generation in wrestling.
Yeah,
I never said superstar.
say that. That's true. But I did try to remove myself in that freaking conversation, anyways.
Yeah. So third generation because Vince and his father faced the Undertaker at WrestleMania. Pretty self-explanatory. Part of multiple factions. He was part of the Alliance. He was part of the McMahon family. All that other shit. Retired temporarily as champion. He retired after he won the European Championship, and then he gave it up. And then the no longer needs their poppy was because you did this to me with Stephanie's theme song. One of the lines in Shane's theme song is I'm not going to try and sing it. I can't remember the exact line right now, but it's something about like no longer need you poppy.
Oh, I thought it was. So here comes the money. Is it?
Yeah, but one of the lines in that song is talking about no longer need you poppy.
Well, at least what I did with Stephanie's song was literally the opening line.
Fair enough. Well, whatever. I was a bigger dick to you.
Oh, shit. All right.
Anyways,
now I have to look at my hands to see which one I'm going to give you.
Fair. Well, don't take too much time doing that because this next segment is yours, and you would like to talk about getting refs and commentators more involved.
Yeah. So
let's do it.
This is something that I've kind of always thought about because even as a kid, like you watch wrestling, and obviously it's a part of the thing and everything's scripted. I get it, but like in my mind, seeing that wrestlers and I don't know if it's more towards them just trying to show that the superstars are these all powerful, crazy, like they can knock you out with one punch type thing, any normal person, but it has to take another superstar to kind of put them out type thing. But like the fact that referees just, you could literally just flick them and they go flying across the ring and they're out for like good half hour or some bullshit. Like, it's like, I don't know. It for me, I was like toying with this idea of how cool would it be? Because I feel like there's a lot of storylines that have been played and watched, rinse, repeat, and just different people and whatever. You can have this whole new aspect of like storylines by just, I said beefing up the refs, putting, and I think where I was going with like beefing them up or kind of having some type of something with them is that I think I've seen kind of mid-card or whatever superstars that kind of float off into the abyss come back as a referee at one point. This was maybe like late 90s. I think I've seen Nunzio come back as a ref at one point, and maybe even Jamie Noble or something, but then they just removed them. And it's like, probably in my mind, I'm thinking they stopped having to do that because it was too weird to see a previous wrestler now be a referee, which, okay, weird. But if it starts becoming like a normal thing, then you have this whole kind of storyline of refs kind of not being afraid to push back. And you kind of see that, like, actually it blew my mind as a kid seeing people like Earl Hebner be able to just be knocked out by a flick and then at the same time go and shove Triple H, and it was like
pointing at their shirt.
I'm the official, like, okay, like, so you do have a backbone. Like you can, but like, again, I know it's scripted and I know obviously, whatever, but that's where I was thinking, like, it's a way to capitalize on mid-card people that you don't necessarily just want to get rid of or release, but like that still want to be involved and still want to, because you still have people like Jamie Noble still involved because he comes out when they need to break up superstars and things like that. So like you still have them. They're clearly doing stuff on the back end. Let them do the things that they like. I mean, and granted, I'm just making assumptions that they'd want to do something like that. But I feel like being in the ring, being in the action, kind of being in front of the fans is something that you never want to stop feeling. So whether that's as a ref, and then again you tie these refs into like storylines or however you do it, I don't know. I mean, you kind of did it with that one guy, what's his name, and AJ Lee was around, and shit, what was his name? Remember, he was a ref and then he became a superstar, and he like screwed somebody's matches over like 4 times or something like that.
No.
It was around the time when AJ was going weird and crazy, and CM Punk was around pipe bomb era type thing. Do you not remember any of this? He like screwed somebody over on numerous occasions for like a title. Brad Maddox. I don't know why I just thought about the name.
Oh yeah. Okay, I remember Brad Maddox.
So
yeah.
he was like started off as a ref or whatever. He got the job from AJ as a ref, and then
That's right.
So I guess maybe that's where my subconscious was going. Anyways, but I think it would be a cool way to kind of do that, and that, again, capitalize on mid-card talent. But also you have people like, I noticed today, actually, I was watching an episode of, I think, Raw or SmackDown, whatever it was, and I saw Corey Greaves get just like literally, you could visibly, and again, I know it's scripted, but commentators being terrified by Kevin Owens throwing a tantrum in front of you. Like he literally, you saw him and Byron. And the one person that you would expect, I don't know the new commentator's name. I think it's John something or whatever, some bald dude. Clearly, I only don't hear his voice because he's like, I don't know, fill-in in my mind. But he was the one that was just like, oh, okay, this is fine. But Byron and Corey, who I would have expected to,
who are the ex-wrestlers,
right, would have been like, oh, like, cool down, KO, like you don't need it. But they both were just like, oh God, and like, oh no, like they were like shivering almost. It was like, that's So again, I know obviously sometimes people like Corey Greaves or superstars that get injured, they kind of take a back seat and do the things that they can do to stay inside the action, like commentate or whatever. But if you want to be able to, again, you can have commentators be previous wrestlers, and it can go through a whole storyline. I don't know, but that's where my mind was going with it, and I don't know how that would work, but.
No, but I like where you're going with that, because I mean, they've like gotten refs so uninvolved in the show, and maybe it's getting a little bit better now, but like I don't know if you remember, but like when we were younger and when we were watching, like the commentators would announce like the ref's name, like they would say like, oh, Earl Hebner, I can't, I'm drawing blanks on the other guys' names, but like they would like mention the refs' names and stuff like that. But then after a while, Vince was like, oh, I want the show to be focused solely on the superstars. So the refs' names are never mentioned again. And it's like,
yeah,
but they're still a part of the show.
I think the only time they're still mentioned in recent years are when the female ref came in and they were like, oh, that's our, I remember specifically on NXT, the one that was at WrestleMania refereeing this year too.
Okay.
And she's blonde.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So I forget who it was, but it was on an NXT like pay-per-view or something. And they were like, oh, that's our ref, blah blah blah. And they kept saying, so I think there was just more of like a push to like make a bigger deal about a woman ref, since it hadn't been since what, the 80s or something like that.
For sure. And I mean, like, and I think we've already seen too, granted it's arguably one of the worst storylines ever, but we've seen refs successfully be utilized in storylines. Because if you remember, during the whole invasion storyline, the one ref from WCW, he was a part of the story. It was like he was always going to be there to try and screw over the WWF wrestler and make sure the WCW guy won. So like we've seen success with that. And like there's another example, Earl Hebner, when he first debuted as a ref in WWE, it was actually, he was posing as his brother who was already a WWE ref, and he was screwing somebody over. He was like hired by Ted DiBiase, paid a bunch of money to screw someone over, and then that's how Earl Hebner ended up in WWE. So like there are plenty, like even without them having to take a hit, there are plenty of ways to get refs more involved. So I agree with what you're saying. And the one thing I don't want to cut you off and like stop your train of thought, but as you were saying about like refs getting hit and going flying, all I could think of was that that compilation video I think one of us sent to the other of Charles Robinson, like the kind of short blonde ref, getting wrecked every 5 seconds. I was like, oh, poor Charles. But yeah, so no, it definitely would be nice, even if they're still going to get knocked down, but like kind of like you alluded to, like having them fight back a little bit, like Earl Hebner against the heels, have heel refs like kind of screwing over
Right.
like the good guys and stuff
yes,
like
they're
that.
supposed to be officials and they're supposed to be like
Right.
by the book, and they're
Everyone's bribable.
right.
Like
So,
Ted DiBiase, you say, everybody has their price. Yeah.
So no, and that's kind of where I was going to it. They don't have to be to an extent, and it doesn't always, refs obviously don't always have to be previous wrestlers.
Right.
But I was thinking that was just a way that they,
No, I get what you're saying there.
having my storyline included, and I'll just give myself a concussion, so that's fine.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, and I definitely agree. I think
Sorry.
I feel like that's actually one way. That's one area that, to a small extent, AEW does better than WWE. Their refs do get a lot more involved. Like they have one ref, a female, Aubrey Edwards, I believe is her name.
Didn't she referee the match with Jericho and Kingston, the barbed wire, everything?
She may have, yeah. But like she'll actually get involved in the matches, and like if someone's like holding onto the rope. What was that?
No, I was just saying my New England accent came out for a second.
Oh, yeah, but like she'll actually get involved. Like, I feel like in WWE, if someone like holds the ropes and like for like extra leverage or whatever, if the ref catches it, like they're just like, hey, stop that and start counting. Aubrey, like if she catches someone holding the ropes for leverage, she'll like go and like smack their arms off, being like, what are you doing? You can't do that type of thing. So like not to the full extent, I think, if you're getting at, but like it's still at least the small baby step of like AEW lets their refs be involved.
That kind of feels like 90s, early 2000s.
Earl Hebner would like kick the person's like arm. He would literally kick their hands off the ropes and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's the small baby steps. But then I'm also not going to give AEW this glaring good review, because their refs are also notorious for just like blatantly like missing things, of like being too easily distracted by like the heels, while the good guys getting like triple teamed and stuff like that. So it's like it's a hit or miss there, but like they at least do get their refs a little bit more involved in the storyline, which is kind of nice to see.
Do they, to what extent they have the refs in the scripting of or like preparation of the matches?
So I think they have.
If they had them, not to cut you off, but I'll just finish this thought and let you go. But because I feel like if they had a bigger part, because I'm assuming that the superstars themselves, they practice over and over again. And then they have an extent of like the ref knows the outcome. The ref kind of knows what things are going to be interrupted. I'm assuming, again, I don't know, but there are still, like, I feel like if you're going through the efforts to prepare for the match, and granted, obviously everything can change when you're actually executing, but you see those blatantly like obvious, like, oh, I'm looking right at you as you're using like something, and it's like, oh, I'm not supposed to see that. So then they quickly turn, and it's like, it's kind of stupid. So like, I feel like if there was a little bit more of that preparation, and again, then you have the ref involved, and then you can kind of include them in storylines or whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And all I was really going to say is, I mean, I think the ref needs to be at least minimally involved already in the preparation for the match, because like they have to know, like they're in my mind, they're the glue that kind of holds the match together, because they have to know like, okay, cool, we're about to cut to like commercial, or like, cool, your match is 20 minutes, but now we need to cut it down to 15. So you guys need to figure out what you're going to cut out. Right. They're in communication. Like they have like all their secret things to like communicate with backstage of like, if someone's injured, like it's not subtle anymore because everybody knows it. But like when they put up like their arms in the X, that means like, oh shit, this person's actually got a legit injury. Like we need like a real doctor, not just like the fake prop guy we got type of thing. So no, yeah, I think having because they should be involved in the preparation anyways for some of the points you made, I think it makes sense to get them involved in storylines altogether. Even if it's not every storyline, just like every once in a while, have the ref be involved. Like,
That's what I was saying. It gives you new material to work with. I mean, we've had, like I said, there have been storylines that I can't even think. I know I had one in my mind from earlier today that I was like, this seems the exact same storyline as something that was happened, just different people.
Right.
Oh,
Of
that's
course.
what it was. It was AJ and Samoa Joe. How many times have they done the exact same "I'm gonna visit you at your house" type thing? You go back
Oh
to
yeah.
Undertaker and DDP, you go back to Stone Cold and Pillman, like, so it's like, okay, that's great, but it's always about the same, like, I feel like it's always that same feeling. It's always like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
coming for my family, like, and I get it. I mean, how many other ways are you gonna do an outside, like, threatening type scene? But
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. It I get what you're saying. It'd be a nice refresh for sure. And if you guys are out there listening, let us know what you think. And the code word for today is locker. Um, uh, any anything else you want to go into on the refs?
no, that was pretty
All
good.
right. All right. Well, then it's
No.
time for our second round of Guess
Ew.
the Poorly Described Wrestler.
All right. I don't think you're gonna get this one.
Okay.
All right. So this superstar is not American.
Is not American. Okay. Oh, what's his name? Gunther.
No.
Okay.
Let's hear clarification.
Oh, male or female?
Female.
Female. Okay.
Yes. This person has been in multiple promotions.
Multiple promotions. Tony Storm.
No.
Okay. Multiple wrestling promotions or multiple sporting promotions?
I'll say two that I know of. It's WWE, and I'm pretty sure the other one is Impact. But let me just confirm before I give you that one.
Okay. But not like outside of wrestling. It's just like wrestling
Yeah.
promotions. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then of course like indies and stuff like that too.
Right. Right. Okay. I just want to make sure you weren't going like down in like an MMA route or like an X, like anything else. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So WWE and Impact.
And then considers themselves a superhero.
A superhero. Nikki ASH.
No.
Oh damn.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you think?
All right.
Yes. Impact. Yeah.
Any championships?
Yes, but that was going to be my next hint. Which specific one? I can try to think of another one. They've been a tag team. She's been a part of a tag team champion.
Oh, a tag team champion. Okay.
Do you want another hint then? Because that was your clarification, kind of.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Or do you want to ask me the clarification?
I guess. Was the tag team championship WWE or TNA's?
I'm pretty sure WWE, but I'll just confirm.
Okay.
So I know WWE, but I don't know if. Yes, okay. She's been tag team champ in both.
Oh, okay. I have no idea who any of TNA's tag team female champions are, so that doesn't help. But okay. All right, next hint.
Well, then my hint would have been the tag team champ. So then you're now clarification.
Oh, another clarification.
Right? Because then.
Sure. Active before the 2000s?
No.
Okay.
And the last hint, she was trained by Lance Storm.
By Lance Storm, not American. Tag team champ. Oh. One of the Iconics?
Which one?
I don't know their names.
Iconics.
I don't even know what their names are.
Oh, I guess I can give you half a point.
So it's one of them. It's one of the Iconics.
Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna get either of them.
Shit, yeah. I can't think. What are their names? Billy's one of them, right?
It's not
or
Billy.
Something K, Billy K, right?
You had it. That was it. But that's not her. It's Peyton.
So it's the other one. It's the other one. Yeah, I give up. I'm never gonna know what
it's Peyton Royce.
Peyton Royce. Okay.
So not her,
right.
Which obvious.
All right, she's Australian, yeah.
Or New Zealand, but I don't know.
Same thing. Same thing.
Is New Zealand its own continent? No, it's part of the continent
No,
of Australia, but Australia is its own country.
I don't know what continent it's actually part of, but we don't need to go into that.
Considers themselves a superhero because her and Billy do the iconic thing. They've been tag team champions. Both actually, they've been their tag team or as of they won it in 2022. It says, or no, I guess in 21 in November, they defeated Impact Knockouts World Tag Team Champion.
Oh, nice.
And then was trained by Lance Storm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that one was interesting. I always like to throw an interesting one that I hadn't known before.
Yeah, I would have had no idea that Lance Storm trained them. I also wouldn't know who most people were trained by.
Actually, that's what I think that's one thing I've been finding out when we've been doing these guest wrestlers is like people like famous he's famous enough. Famous wrestlers that trained now currently.
They're wrestlers, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I found that out. I found out some of Kevin Owens when we did it at one point.
The Quebecers, right?
That was one of our I think that was one of my hints when we did it of who he was trained by.
Yeah, you said he was trained by, what was it, the Quebecers or the Mounties?
I thought it was the Quebecers.
It was probably the Quebecers then.
Now that you're saying it, my memory's not the greatest.
Yeah, no, I think it was the Quebecers. Do you remember that being one of the hints though?
Huh?
I said I do remember that being one of the hints though.
Yeah, I didn't think you were even gonna get in the ballpark of the Iconics.
Yeah, what did you say that made me think of that? Oh, I was honestly just trying to run through female tag teams in WWE that I know had won the tag team championships. And I was like, the only non-American ones that I could think of were them or the Kabuki Warriors. And I was like, I doubt it was either of them.
It could have been. The superhero thing would be throwing off.
Yeah.
Maybe the Lance Storm thing too.
Yeah, either way.
Whatever happened to her? Kairi Singh, right? No.
I think Kairi Singh. She's part of she just, unless I'm thinking of someone else, she just came back at SummerSlam and is in like a heel faction with Bayley.
You're thinking of the one with Dakota Kai and you're thinking of
oh, it's not Kairi Singh?
No, that's the something of the sky. The
oh, okay.
What is her name?
Then she might be out of WWE. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she's been out since the Kabuki Warriors. I think she had an injury.
Could be. That's why I thought she returned, because I feel like everybody in Bayley's faction was gone.
I really enjoy her entrance music too.
Yeah, I have no idea who it is then. Anywho,
Iro Shirai. Did you use my phone?
There you go. Iro Shirai.
That was I had to say the thing, but I couldn't think of the word. It's the something of the sky. It's Iro Shirai, something of the sky. They always say, and I can't think of. But it doesn't matter. I thought of the name, so
proud of you. Proud of you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last segment of the night. I guess I'll kick it off since it started with a TikTok I made for our account a week or two ago. But basically the discussion is just whether or not, the topic I have written down is whether or not EVPs, executive vice president, should be full-time wrestlers. But this really goes for any position of power, I'll say.
Or really, yeah.
Any position of power. Anybody that has
power to control outcomes in their own.
For lack of the better, instead of saying EVP, for any booker to be a full-time wrestler in today's world of professional wrestling, I don't think makes sense anymore. I guess in the territory days,
it makes sense
to an extent. Like the one example of where I think it kind of worked is Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes did booking for Jim Crockett Promotions, which was like the pre-WCW stuff. He was the booker there, and he was also like a full-time wrestler and won the world championship once while he was booking. So like, people people have made the comment saying like, oh, well, he was biased and stuff like that, but he was also very just much over. Like the fans loved him. Like, and that was also at the time when like kayfabe and like not that people didn't know it was scripted, but like it was less presented that it was scripted. So it like kind of made sense.
Running around saying, you know, that's fake, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they had people like that, but yeah. Anyways, it's just this whole topic came about with basically right after the whole CM Punk situation with the Young Bucks and their fight and being suspended. And what really brought about it to me was I kind of had an issue with the fact that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are executive vice presidents for AEW. They have obviously some creative input in the company, and they booked themselves to be the first ever trios tag team champions in AEW. And I had an issue with that, not because because I like them as a tag team. I like the Young Bucks. I think they're pretty athletic. I like Kenny Omega. I think his character work when he was AEW World Champion was great. But I felt that there were more deserving trio teams in AEW. Like one example, which granted there's some other issues going on there. So like why they didn't wouldn't make sense. But like, for example, there's the House of Black faction. There's Malachi Black, formerly Aleister Black. There's Brody King, and then Buddy Matthews, or I forget if Buddy Matthews was his AEW name or his WWE name, but they were a very popular trios. So the fact that they didn't even make it out of the first round, I found to be insane. There's the tag team of the Best Friends with that guy Orange Cassidy, who has his hands in his pocket all the time. Like the other two guys in the trios aren't as popular, but like he's super popular. So like it's not even like for him not to be in it. There's the Dark Order, which is a pretty popular tag team. Like they were just, I felt there were so many other teams like it that should have been the first world champion or first tag team champions. Like the fact that like if the Young Bucks and
Young Bucks were tag team champions at one point already, right?
They were tag
AEW's first tag? No.
They weren't the first. Kenny Omega actually may have been the first.
My point is being that like, and I don't know as much of AEW. I watch here and there whenever I remember. I barely remember anything. So, but like I feel like when I do watch, it's like okay, Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, like they kind of just formed together just for the sake of the trios tournament type thing.
Well, no, they're technically a faction too in AEW. Yeah, they're called the Elite. Yeah, so
my point being is that it's like at least in kind of saying a little bit more to your point, that's like the Young Bucks were like in my mind, like the team, and then Kenny Omega was like his solo because obviously he was AEW. And again, this is just me because I don't watch fully, but in my mind, they kind of formed together almost out of necessity-ish. Like they never really all teamed together in my mind, as opposed to like people like the the House of Black. I've seen them all work together. They've been in matches. I'm pretty sure at least that I've watched where they were all together.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
we probably did, yeah.
It's like again capitalizing on your point of give it to an actual kind of solidified trio, not just okay, these are two popular people that are. And again, I don't know what the whole back.
No, yeah, and
the fact that they just wanted it to be written down in history that they were the first, and they have the power to say it. So
yeah, and it's funny too, I guess, the way almost that karma works because they book. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong here, and they didn't book themselves to do it, and it was just maybe Tony Khan does complete creative control by himself, and he just said, "You guys are going to be the first ones." But it's funny, just taking the assumption that they did book themselves. Karma worked against them because now they got into the fight with CM Punk. They got suspended immediately. They were stripped of their titles immediately. And now there's already another new trio tag team champions because, a day after they were won, they had to vacate them. But yeah, no, just to go off your point and like, basically when Kenny Omega was AEW champion and the Young Bucks were tag team champions, they were basically what the Bloodline is now in WWE. Like they held the championships, and they would do like 6-man tag matches together against like
Yeah.
whoever. Yeah, they were doing that consistently for almost a year. Basically, like anytime Kenny Omega had a new opponent for like his world title, they would have a 6-man tag match against Kenny Omega's opponent and like 2 other people. So like they did. Yeah, so they did. So I mean, like my issue wasn't that they weren't an established trios team. It was more so that they are, in theory, helping book the company,
Right.
and then choosing to be the first world champions. Like if you are not,
it goes back to
world championships, but like yeah, if you want to book yourself to be this champion or win this championship, that's fine, but don't make yourself the inaugural.
Mm-hmm. No, and I definitely don't think that they should have ever been like they shouldn't ever try for it, to your point. But it goes back to what we've been saying, I feel like constantly about AEW. It's like, okay, you have these well-established people that you're putting all your money towards, and now you have all these shouldn't say low level, but lower card people, superstars, that you're not putting the effort in that you should be doing. You should be putting the effort into your own people. Granted, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, I don't think have been anywhere but AEW or
New Japan.
Yeah, so I mean, that's fine too. I shouldn't discredit them, but you know what I mean.
No, I get what you're saying.
I just derailed my own self. What was I going? Oh yeah, so
know.
just continue. Like it's just you putting in the efforts into people that already are well established, and it's like, okay, maybe put the spotlight on somebody that isn't well established. That was a perfect opportunity for somebody like, I don't know. I don't know why I keep going. My mind is just thinking of Andrade's. I don't know what his name is in AEW.
Oh, he's still Andrade. He was in that tournament too. Yeah. So that's the point. Like
that would have been a perfect. I mean, granted, Andrade, I feel like had a bit of spotlight, a little bit at least in WWE, but not. I don't think I'm crazy. But I think to have somebody like that, or in the House of Black, I guess too, they could have easily been somebody that you put the spotlight on. But the whole point being that you have these people that that are AEW originals,
right.
and they're lower level, lower cards, but you have these opportunities to present them as higher and bring them up, bring them onto that main, and keep evolving your roster, and you're just not doing it. You're continuously putting in the efforts towards the people that you're taking from WWE, which fine, and the people that are already big enough at your brand, and that again alienates. And that's where you have people like making comments like AJ Styles in WCW at times. He was in WCW. Nobody knows that. I didn't know that for the longest time. I didn't know that till I was now.
to be fair, it was like at the very tail end. But yeah, he didn't get a spotlight. He showed up on Thunder, and I think, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, but I know because I'm a freak and I like reading all of that shit. But he was eliminated in the first round of a cruiserweight tag team championship tournament.
Look at him now.
Yeah, and look at him now. Multiple time NWA, TNA, IWGP.
I don't know why I keep going back to it, because I secretly want AEW to fail, and then they all kind of go into WWE and everybody gets crazy and everything happens for fun. I don't know, but whatever. I feel like they had almost the blueprint. WCW was a blueprint of what not to do, kind of.
100%.
Or like you had exactly what they did. You kind of got to see it. You knew what they did, and now you can go ahead and capitalize. And you have people that were there at the time.
Chris Jericho.
What's his name? I think we did it as a guest wrestler at one point. I can't think of his name now, of course. Older guy.
Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He should be the first person to be like, hey, listen to me.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And if he's not, or if he is, what the hell?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. We could go on this forever.
Yeah. But
yeah, they had like I said, they had the blueprint and they just failed to read it, basically. And you know what? It's unlike you. I want WWE to beat them, but I don't ever want them to go out of business. I don't want to start. For me, it's more like if I start watching AEW and I'm liking it, it's like
these people will never interact with the people that I already like.
I
Unless
get what
they're
you're saying.
selling over, you know what I mean? And
I get
that's
what you're
where it's
saying.
like, we can keep talking and we always do. And it's like, oh, what's your dream matchup? What's your dream matchup? And that's where it's like, these dream matchups are great. And then it's like, okay, I guess we'll maybe have it when they're close to retiring, like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. I don't know.
But see that's the thing. I get what you're saying is like you want them to all be in one place to see each other, but realistically,
Right.
WWE buys out AEW. They're not going to take on most of that talent. They already have an overfilled roster as it is. So I
Maybe
think,
not after all those releases.
I mean, they don't have enough room to take on a whole nother
Oh,
roster.
I'm not saying, yeah, no, they definitely would, and they can't be
But
paying people the price that they're paying them at AEW.
exactly. So I think ultimately, again, I want WWE to always be winning the quote unquote war, but I want
I don't think there's
AEW.
ever a time where they won't be, in my mind. I feel like
It could
can't.
be.
The only person I feel like that could at this point is Impact, but they need some type of big push, because the only reason why I say that is because they've been around forever,
Yeah,
and they're only, like, in my mind, nationally televised promotion that's on the same. No.
they're not nationally.
Oh yeah, they're not anymore.
They used to be. Yeah,
Yeah,
they used to
that's
be.
the reason why
Yeah.
I keep going back to what I used to know, and that's why I keep thinking like they're still kind of on par, and that's where I'm like, okay, well, if they're doing something right.
Right. No, I mean they've definitely lasted. Yeah, for sure. They've definitely lasted. You know, they're in a whole nother league. But yeah, what I was getting at is keeping both companies open, and I'll even include Impact of this, is good for the wrestling business because it lets wrestlers basically get a bidding war so that they can kind of hop back and forth, and we can get some of those dream matches.
Hmm.
With both companies being open, obviously they have contracts with those companies.
Yeah, I mean,
Contracts expire, you jump ship. Yeah,
right. You could have them,
right.
but
You could,
not like in the perfect world where you would.
right.
But then again, I mean, you never know, because who's to say that if Goldberg did come over from WCW for an extent, like a longer extended, because he was it even a year that he was in WWE after the whole?
No, a single year. Yeah,
I was gonna say, yeah. So like, if he stayed, who's to say he would have stayed, as utilized, or who's to say WWE would have utilized him as this person that should be going up against? I mean, that would have freaking, imagine watching that in their like them in their prime at that time.
in a real match.
Still
Yeah,
good, right? I mean, it was still decent. I think, from what I remember, nothing like crazy.
it could have been worse. Yeah,
I mean, it was just the first couple were really quick. I mean, Goldberg handed Brock Lesnar like.
Oh, you're talking about in 2016. I was thinking WrestleMania 20. Their during their first run, their last match was against each other at WrestleMania 20 with Stone Cold as the special guest referee. All of Madison Square Garden was cursing them out. You'll have to go back.
Yeah, I'll have to go back.
Unless
you're from a different multiverse.
No, this is pretty solidified. Pretty solidified.
Mandela effect.
Pretty solidified. What's it called? Brock cost. We're getting so off tangent, but Brock cost Goldberg from winning the Royal Rumble in 2004. So Goldberg helped Eddie beat Brock for the WWE Championship at No Way Out in 2004, and that set up a match at WrestleMania for the two of them.
None of this is ringing a bell.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch it.
You probably should. But anyways, I think that's just about time for today. Anyways, we kind of went very far off tangent with the last topic. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll be back soon within the next few weeks with another one. We'll have some more topics for you. We'll probably be thinking about them. We don't have anything solidified yet, but definitely let us know in the comments if you have anything you want to hear us talk about. All right. Have a good one, y'all.